last couple of weeks, my messages have been a lot easier to deliver because they've been on a positive note about offering a compassionate touch, about seeing a need and touching the hurt. Indeed, we just saw evidence of that this morning as people are facing surgeries, trials. We can come together as the body of Christ. This morning's is a little heavier, much heavier subject, overcoming shame. I spoke with Mel. I said, so Mel, what's the difference between shame and guilt? We've had some interesting discussions at home this week, and we were looking at that, and we looked it up in the dictionary, and we found these words. We said that shame is a painful feeling of humiliation or distress caused by wrong or foolish behavior. But what's interesting about shame, unlike guilt, is that shame often comes as a result of actions that were imposed upon us, where we are the victim instead of the perpetrator. And sometimes when it's that outside force, it could just be overwhelming, just feel like we're just in a canyon, if you will, with no light, no hope in sight. As the praise team has sung beautifully this morning, that one of the themes that has been in several of the songs was grace. Because the only way to overcome shame ultimately is through God's amazing grace. So we're going to be exploring that in more depth. But I want to begin this morning by telling you a story. It's from Max Lucado's book, Cast of Characters. And it takes place just outside the town of Casper, Wyoming. And it's interesting that one of our dear friends who pastored for over 20 years in Casper was aware of this story. But it's tragic. But I think it helps us understand the devastating effects that shame can have if it is not resolved or dealt with. The story goes like this. Rebecca Thompson fell twice from the Fremont Canyon Bridge, and she died both times. The first fall broke her heart. The second fall broke her neck. She was only 18 years old when she and her 11-year-old sister were abducted by a pair of hoodlums who drove them out of Casper, Wyoming, 40 miles southwest of the Fremont Canyon Bridge, a one-lane steel beam structure that rises 112 feet above the North Platte River. These men brutally beat and raped Rebecca. She somehow convinced them not to do the same to her 11-year-old sister, Amy. Both were then thrown over the bridge into the narrow gorge. Amy, the 11-year-old, died when she landed on a rock near the river. Rebecca slammed into a ledge and was ricocheted in deeper water. With a hip fractured in 5 places, she struggled to the shore. To protect her body from the cold that night, she wedged herself between 2 rocks and waited until dawn. But the dawn never came for Rebecca. Oh yes, she was found when the sun came up. The physicians treated her wounds. The courts imprisoned her attackers. Life continued, but the dawn never came. The blackness of her night of horrors lingered. She was never able to climb out of that canyon of despair and shame. So 19 years later, in September 1992, she returned to the bridge. Against her boyfriend's pleadings, she drove to the North Platte River with her 2-year-old daughter and her boyfriend at her side. She sat on the edge of the Fremont Canyon Bridge and wept. Through her tears, she retold her story. Her boyfriend didn't want their child to see her mother crying, so he carried the toddler back to the car, and that's when he heard her body hit the water. And that's when she died her second day. the sun never dawned on Rebekah's garden. Why? What was it that eclipsed the light from her life? Was it fear? Perhaps. After all, she had testified in the courtroom against her attackers and pointed them out. One of the murderers had taunted her by smirking and sliding his finger across his throat. On the very day of her death, both men had been up for parole. Maybe it was the fear of a second encounter that was just too great. Perhaps it was anger. Anger at her rapist, anger at the parole board, anger at herself for the 1,000 falls and the 1,000 nightmares that followed, or anger at a God for a canyon that grew ever deeper and ever darker, and a dawn that never came. Was it guilt? Many think so. Despite her attractive smile and her appealing personality, friends say that she struggled with the ugly fact that she survived and her little sister did not. Survivor's guilt, they call it. Was it shame? Everyone she knew and thousands of people she didn't know had heard the humiliating details of her tragedy. The stigma was tattooed ever deeper with every newspaper headline. She had been raped, she had been violated, she had been shamed, and try as she might to outlive and outrun that memory, she never could. So 19 years later, she goes back to the bridge. The bottom line is, canyons of shame run deep. Gorges of never-ending guilt. You can try putting your hands over your ears to block out the noises. You could splash water in your face to somehow wash it all away. You could stop looking over your shoulder all the time, and try as you might to outrun yesterday's tragedies, their tentacles just grow longer than your hope. Keep drawing you back to the bridge of your sorrows, just to be shamed over and over and over again. Now, if it were your fault, it would be much different. If you were to blame, you could apologize. If the tumble into the canyon were your mistake, you could respond. But when you're not a volunteer and you're the victim, where do you find relief? Sometimes shame is very private. Pushed over the edge by an abusive spouse. Molested by a perverted parent. Seduced by a compromising superior. No one knows but you know. And that's enough. Sometimes it's very public, where you might be branded by a divorce that you didn't want, or contaminated by a disease that you never expected, marked by a handicap that you didn't create. And whether it's actually in their eyes or just in your imagination, you have to deal with it, because you are now marked. A divorcee, an invalid, an orphan, AIDS patient. Whether it's private or public, shame is always painful, and unless you deal with it, it's permanent. Unless you get help, the dawn will never come. I don't think any of us would be surprised for me to say that Rebecca Thompsons are in every town, and that there are Fremont bridges in every city. In fact, there's a lot of Rebecca Thompsons in the Bible. In fact, we've met several of them throughout this sermon series. Each has been acquainted with the hard floor of the canyon of shame. But there is one woman in particular in Scripture who probably embodies them all better than anyone else. It's a story of failure. It's a story of abuse. It's a story of shame. But it's also a story of grace, forgiveness. Her story is found in John's Gospel, chapter 8, verses 1 through 11. Jesus went to the Mount of Olives. But early in the morning, he went back to the temple, and all the people came to him, and he sat down He began to teach them. At that moment, the teachers of the law and the Pharisees brought a woman who had been caught in adultery. They forced her to stand before the people, and they said to Jesus, "Teacher, this woman was caught having sexual relationships with a man who is not her husband. The law of Moses commands that we stone to death every woman who does this. What do you say we should do?" They were asking this to trick Jesus so they could have some charge against him. Jesus merely bent over and started writing on the ground with his finger. When they continued to probe Jesus with their question, he raised up and said, "Anyone here who has never sinned can throw the first stone at her." And Jesus bent over, began writing on the ground again. Those who heard Jesus began to leave one by one. First the older men, then the others. Jesus was left there alone with the woman standing before him. Jesus raised up again and asked her, "Woman, where are they? Has no one judged you guilty?" "No one, sir," she answered. Then Jesus said, "I also don't judge you guilty. You may go now, but don't sin anymore." I want you to try to imagine the scene. There she is, standing in the center of the circle. The men that are around her are the religious leaders. Pharisees, they're called, the self-appointed custodians of conduct. And the other man? The one in the simple clothes, sitting on the ground, looking into her face? It's Jesus. You see, Jesus has been there teaching. Nothing out of the ordinary there. But this woman has been cheating. The Pharisees are out to try and stop them both. "Teacher, this woman was caught in the act of adultery." Those accusations would have just ricocheted off the courtyard walls. Caught in the act? I mean, the words alone are enough to make you blush. Doors being slammed open, covers being jerked back. In the act, in the arms, in the embrace. Aha! What do we have here? This man isn't your husband. Put some clothes on. We know what to do with women like you. In an instant, she's yanked from private passion to public spectacle. Heads poke out of windows as the posse pushes her through the streets. Dogs begin to bark. Neighbors turn. The city sees. Clutching a thin robe around her shoulders, she hides her nakedness, but nothing can hide her shame. From this moment on, she will be known forever as an adulteress. When she goes to the market, women will whisper. When she passes, heads will turn. When her name is mentioned, people will remember, because moral failure finds easy recall. But the greater travesty goes unnoticed. What the woman did is shameful. But what the Pharisees did is despicable. Because according to the law, adultery was punishable by death only if two people witnessed the act. There had to be two eyewitnesses. Question: how likely are two people to be eyewitnesses to adultery? Think about it. What are the chances of two people stumbling upon an early morning flurry of forbidden embraces? I can't even calculate the odds. But if you do, the odds are that it's not a coincidence. So we wonder, how long did these guys peer through the window? How long had they been hiding behind the curtain before they barged in? How long? What about the guy? There's no mention of him. Because adultery requires two participants. Could he have just slipped out? Or, more likely in my mind, is that he was probably in on it. The evidence leaves little doubt that this was a trap. She was caught. But she'll soon realize that she's actually not the catch. She's merely the bait. The law of Moses commands that we stone to death every woman who does this. What do you say we should do, Jesus? Pretty cocky, this committee of high ethics. Pretty proud of themselves, too, these agents of righteousness. This will be a moment that they long remember. The morning that they foil and snag the mighty Nazarene. As for the woman, she's immaterial. She's just a pawn in their game. Her future, it doesn't matter to them. It's unimportant. Her reputation, who cares if it's ruined? She's just a necessary, indispensable part of their plan. In her shame, she stares at the ground. Her sweaty hair dangles. Her tears drip hot with hurt. Her lips are tight. Her jaw is clenched. She knows that she's been framed. There's no need to look up. She'll find no kindness here among these men. She looks at the stones in their hands, squeezed so tightly that fingertips are already turning white. She thinks of running, but where? She could claim mistreatment, but to whom? She could deny the act, but she was seen. She could beg for mercy, but these men would offer none. She has nowhere to turn. I would almost expect Jesus to proclaim judgment upon these hypocrites. You viper's brood, who warned you to flee from the wrath to come? Much as he had spoken on an earlier occasion. But he doesn't. I almost wish he could press his communicator and say, Scotty, beat us up. We want to get out of here. That doesn't happen either. Or an angel descending from heaven to somehow wipe these guys off the face of the earth. Or an earthquake, the ground opening up to swallow them all, but none of that happens. Jesus' move is very subtle, but his message is unmistakable. What does he do? I know you already know, I already read it to you, but just imagine if you were hearing this for the first time. It's as though he doesn't even hear their question. As though he just totally ignores them and he starts, much like a child would, writing in the dirt. Oh, I've heard sermons that speculate that he was writing out the sins of these men. He could have been drawing a house for all I know. I mean, that's how little thought he really gave to these guys. I mean, he didn't give them any credence. It's like he just totally ignores them. But here's something to think about. The same finger that's writing in the dirt that day is the same hand that etched the commandments in stone on Mount Sinai. It's the same hand that was seen writing on Belshazzar's wall before judgment fell. And here he is, scribbling on the courtyard floor. But as he's writing, whatever it is that he's writing, he speaks. I have a feeling it was quiet, subdued, calm. If there's anyone here among you who's never sinned, please, feel free. That's the first step. And he just goes back to writing on the ground some more. The young look to the old look in their hearts, and the old, we're told, are the first to drop their stone. And as they turn to leave, the young who were cocky with borrowed convictions do the same. The only sound that is heard is the thud of the rocks hitting the ground and the shuffling of feet as they leave the scene. They were so sure that we got him this time, until they looked at themselves, confronted with their own sin. Scripture tells us that Jesus and the woman are left alone. And with the jury now gone, the courtroom suddenly becomes the judge's chambers. The woman awaits her verdict. She's probably thinking to herself, surely a sermon is brewing at the very least. No doubt he's going to demand that I apologize. But he doesn't even speak to her right away. In fact, he seems almost surprised when he realizes that she's even still there. Woman, where are they? Has no one judged you guilty? No one, sir. And Jesus says, I also don't judge you guilty. You may go now. But don't sin anymore. If you've ever wondered how God reacts when you fail, frame these words. Mount them on your wall. Read them. Ponder them. Drink from them. Stand before them and let them wash over your soul. I also don't judge you guilty. The Creator of the universe, the Son of God, I also don't judge you guilty. Or maybe instead of mounting them on your wall, take them back to your canyon of shame. Invite Christ to journey with you back to your Fremont Bridge. Let him stand beside you as you retell the events of the darkest nights of your soul. And then listen. Listen carefully. Because he's speaking directly to you. And watch carefully. Because he's writing a message. Not in the sand. Not in the dirt. But on a cross. He's not writing with his hand, but he's writing with his blood. His message has two words for you. Not guilty. That's what grace, God's grace, can do